This is Pixelated Audio, episode 79, and today we're listening to the music from Arumana no Kiseki on the Famicom Disk System.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Pixelated Audio, a bi-weekly video game music and retro gaming podcast. I'm James, and this is Brian, your host, and we've got a great little soundtrack to share with you guys today.
Yeah, it's a short one, but a good one.
Yeah.
I'm excited. So today we're going to be listening to the music from a Famicom Disk System title that's pretty well regarded for its soundtrack called Arumana no Kiseki, which means the Miracle of Arumana, or Arumana, however you want to Romanize it. That track that we started the show with was the opening cutscene. It's very short, but it's sweet.
Yeah, it's short and sweet. Got a little bit of a mysterious, eerie vibe to it that I think sets the tone of the game.
Little sorrow in there, a little despair. Yeah, no, I think the soundtrack is excellent. So it's very, very short soundtrack. So we were kind of waiting to play the soundtrack, do an episode on it when we're in more of a crunch time. We're still really busy in life, so want to do something that was a little lighter, a little quicker, and but we still have a ton of great information.
Oh, yeah.
So even though it's shorter episodes, it's going to be jam-packed with a lot of great info.
Yeah, it's super jam-packed with awesome sounds. This is a really good short soundtrack.
Yeah. So, Arumana no Kiseki was released on August 11th in 1987 for the Famicom Disk System, developed and published by Konami.
Now, we've talked a bunch about Konami, and we even did some Famicom Disk System games by them with I Sent You Nicole and Falcion, so it's probably overkill to talk about them more in this episode, but what we will say is that Konami was a huge supporter of the Famicom Disk System, with many of their titles getting disc release like Castlevania 1 and 2, Russian Attack, Esper Dreams, Jackal, Blades of Steel, and a whole bunch more.
Yeah, I think they were the most active third-party publisher for the system.
Yep, they were only second to Nintendo.
Yeah, it's crazy because Akumajo Dracula was released in 86, Castlevania, for the Disk System. So that was their first title on the system. And then Arumana no Kiseki was their 10th release a year later. Well, not even a year. It was like 10 or 11 months.
Yeah, so that's pretty much a game a month averaging for the Disk System, which was not even a huge system.
Yeah, I mean, you had to buy the Famicom, then you had to buy the Disk System. And, simultaneously, they were putting out Famicom-only titles, too.
Right.
And other platforms, MSX, all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So, what was their development department look like? I mean, how many people did they have working on titles? It was one guy just doing one game? And
well, I mean, a lot of the titles that we did list were big titles for the NES Famicom, so maybe it wasn't that much work to port it over, use some little extra sound stuff, but still, it was exciting to see the Disk System get so much by Konami. Like I mentioned, this is our third Disk System episode, and they've all been Konami so far.
Right. And, in the US, we were really kind of barred on how many releases we got from the publisher because they had to create the Ultra games, and, they were trying to, kind of circumvent Nintendo's, I guess, blockage for overkill on releases. But the good thing is Japan didn't get that release.
So Konami could do whatever they wanted, many as they wanted, and
just pumping stuff out. So anyways, let's get into our first track of the day. This is from stages 1, 4, and 6, composed by Kinuyo Yamashita and possibly Kouji Murata.
right, you just heard stage 1, 4, and 6, composed by Kinuyo Yamashita for Arumana no Kiseki on the Famicom Disk System.
This is an incredible track.
Super incredible, actually.
In fact, this is maybe the most well-known, well-loved track in the game.
Oh, yeah.
It's just got everything there. Everything classically you would love. I mean, it's got a really Castlevania vibe to it.
Very
definitely a Yamashita track. I think there's no question.
Yeah, I'm not much of a betting man, but I think I would bet on that.
Yeah, and so many different instruments as well. I love that that kind of trumpet in the beginning there. You know, I think it's so pretty. And then she reuses that kind of tone again for like kind of almost like an accent, like an echo, kind of coming back in. It's got almost like a I want to say like a Southern American kind of flair to it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So yeah, no, I love this track. That was excellent.
Yeah, no, I mean, it like you said, it has a very Castlevania feel. It's very heroic and galloping. It has some great play back and forth, and I love how like the mid range will play a series of notes, and then the higher range will do it again. So there's kind of like this like back and forth, like I can do what you can do type thing, and it was just such a great track. It was, like you said, just very classic, NES, sounding like right. Great music, like a lot of the music that people really fell in love with from the systems, the early Nintendos.
Right.
And it's just a great example, a good way to start off this game.
Maybe that's a good way to kind of compare it. So, or explain it, is kind of Castlevania meets like a mariachi kind of thing. With the trumpety feeling.
Yeah, and I think when we get into the game, that'll make a little bit more sense, right. I guess.
Yeah, so Kinuyo Yamashita is so well known. I almost feel like we don't need to say anything about her, but her work is simply incredible and probably one of the contributing reasons why VGM is so important to people like us today, I think.
Oh, yeah. I mean, one of the top-notch composers. It's right. Pretty insane. So she was originally from Hyogo, Japan. She graduated college and got hired pretty quickly into Konami's sound team, where she knocked it out of the park with titles like Castlevania and Castlevania 2. But then there was also King Kong 2, Ikari no Megaton Punch, Esper Dream 1 and 2 for the NES. Then there was Nightmare 2, The Maze of Gallius, and Shalom, the third title in the Nightmare series for the MSX, which we did an entire episode spotlight on the series.
Was that like episode 20 something?
It was early.
Yeah, a few years back, but excellent episode, because we had so many great tunes from that series.
Yeah, if you don't love the MSX after listening to that episode, I don't know if you're going to love it. But then there was also Gradius 2 and Parodius for the MSX.
Yeah, and then in 1989, she left Konami to become a freelance composer, apparently because the work hours sucked.
I can see that.
Yeah, traditional Japanese company, not surprising. But as a freelancer, she was involved in a lot of other titles like Power Blade 1 and 2, Mega Man The Wily Wars, quite a few titles with Iku Mizutani and Hiroyuki Iwatsuki, who we had on our last episode,
right.
For Mitsume ga Toru. And then she's also quite well known for the Metabot series. But the music in the game is pretty well regarded in the game audio scene.
Right.
Like people like us really like the soundtrack. But I think a lot of people, including us, kind of forget that the music wasn't only done by Yamashita, but it was also Kouji Murata.
Yeah, and Kouji Murata is a former composer that also did a lot of engineering and sound driver work during his career. He previously worked for Konami, Tosei, and Minakuchi Engineering, but then I guess more recently he's acting as the director or CEO of a company called BitGroove, which I guess focuses more on iOS games.
Yeah, they do like iOS versions of like different, I think Final Fantasy, they did some kind of Final Fantasy game or a few
That's
different.
Cool. So they still have their connections to the past.
Yeah, I went to their website and they're like, oh, we have... we're a great team that does all these amazing ports, and we have like skilled engineers from back in the old days. So they're really kind of putting Murata's name on the cover there.
Yeah,
saying
playing
like, hey,
up their legacy.
Their legacy, yeah.
But on the composing side of things, he's worked on games like Top Gun, the NES port of Q*bert, and Skate or Die, which was a big favorite of mine as a kid.
Me too.
There was also Dragon Scroll, Biomiracle, Bokute Upa, Gambare Goemon 2, Bionic Commando for the Game Boy, and the Mega Man Game Boy titles.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So he composed several songs for this game originally, but only one of those songs was used, and none of the others made it into the score.
Aww.
The thing is, it's not clear which one was used.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess our goal today is to kind of determine which is the Murata track.
Yeah, and then I guess when we have either of them on the show, we can find out and confirm it. Did you do this track? Did they do this track? And we'll see.
Yeah. So we're going to just call it here. That first track was definitely Yamashita. So,
Yeah.
no question there. But let's get into our next track. This is the boss theme. The boss theme 1, actually, composed by Kinuyo Yamashita or possibly Kouji Murata.
Okay, you just heard the first boss theme, which I feel is very much a Kinuyo Yamashita track.
I think you're very much right there. I mean, this is her style.
Yeah.
It definitely is. I like this. I mean, it's short. It's like 30 seconds, and it still even repeats in there.
Yeah.
But it's fun. We had to have it in the show because we don't really have a whole lot of other tracks. So.
Well, I mean, it's a great 30 seconds. There's a lot of notes in there. There's a lot of cool scales, and we were talking, offline that it has still kind of like that gothic baroque feel that Castlevania is known for, even though this game is different. It's obviously not Castlevania, but it's fast paced, lots of stuff going on. It's intense, which I think makes a great boss track, and to me that really feels like her work.
Yeah, it's very chaotic, very fast moving, a little bit intense and disturbing, but yeah, it's just it's a fun track, and these bosses aren't very long anyway. I think you can cheese a lot of them into like quick kills and stuff. So you probably only hear 30 seconds of the track anyway.
Right.
But we've talked about the sound chip before for the Famicom Disk System attachment, the Rico 2 C33 chip. We really dove into it on our episode featuring I Sent You Nicole, and then obviously the Falcion. Let's kind of recap on it.
Yeah, it's been quite a while since that Falcion episode.
Yeah, so the disk system attachment in terms of audio is that it complements the existing 5 channels of the NES sound system by adding a single 64 6-bit wavetable channel using the modulation table set up by the CPU. It's a programmable waveform, like a higher quality version of that triangle channel on the Game Boy.
Yeah, I love Game Boy music, but this has a little bit more of a natural sound.
Yeah, it's a lot more like analog sound to it.
Yeah, well, more than the Game Boys anyway.
Yeah. Well, comparing it to Channel 3 on the Game Boy probably isn't the best example because the disk system has both a higher sample resolution and a wider waveform buffer.
Just out of curiosity, what was the Game Boys?
I think it was like 16 4-bit sample.
Oh, okay. That sounds about right.
Yeah, something like that. But you also have to consider like the volume control and an envelope generator. And with those vibratos, I'm sure that adds kind of a lot to the way we're perceiving the sound.
Yeah, I think it gives it much more of an organic sound to it.
Like an organic feeling, yeah. You can kind of make it sound like whatever you want, which is awesome because it's basically the same as any of the channels on the TurboGrafx 16 or PC Engine.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much variety and just a ton of different instruments.
That's why the PC Engine has such great audio because, if the composers created really good sounds with their, with each of the channels, you can make some incredible tunes with it. Or you can get some really crappy stuff because they just didn't put the time or care into it.
Right.
Yeah. There's a lot of variety in the instruments. So like that first track, stage 1, 4, and 6, there's like 5 or something I counted.
Right.
If you want to solo those out real quick, just on the disk system, we can do it. You want to listen to that?
Yeah, I'm never going to say no to soloing things out.
I think you can hear them pretty clear. So let's listen to that real quick. So that's like the first one. That's a different instrument.
Yeah. I love that part.
This is a different instrument.
Yeah.
And that's a totally different instrument too.
Yeah. That's so cool though.
Yeah, that's just like a pulse. So good. Going back to that first note there, that first instrument. Well, let's slow it down a little bit. God, that vibrato is so good.
Yeah. No, it's you can really imagine like someone playing this on like a violin and like, you know, bending the strings and putting a lot of emphasis and like you know, passion into it. It's so cool.
For me, it just sounds like a trumpet, like with like almost like a mute on it.
Oh,
like
okay,
going
yeah.
Wah, 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 you know, it just sounds really awesome there. It's like a really smooth sine wave. So it just sounds everything really well connected. And that's, you know, going back to the sound chip, you got the 64-step 6-bit wavetable channel. And so you can have a lot more of a natural kind of sine curve than you could with anything else, you know?
Yeah.
So,
and even slowed down and just soloed out. That was so beautiful.
yeah. So anyways, yeah, 6 channels, a wavetable channel for the Famicom Disk System, 2 pulse waves, a triangle channel, and the noise channel. And that DMC channel.
Oh, yeah. But this soundtrack doesn't use the DMC at all, right?
No, not a lot of disk system games use DMC. I'm guessing that's because it just takes up too much memory.
Yeah, that's probably a good guess, actually.
Yeah, there's only 32K of RAM for the game data. So, you know, it's funny because I was actually just looking this up the other day because I was curious too. I was like, how come they don't use any DMC for this? And this is very early too. We didn't see it really kind of in popular use until later on anyway.
Right.
But I did find a few. So there was Katobi Doji, Risa no Yosei Densetsu, and Night Move. Those are all Famicom Disk System titles that use that. Some are very, very minimal. It's just like a click or something like that. But then Night Move actually has a little bit more of like a bass kind of thing. If you guys are interested, go check out that soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the Famicom Disk System attachment. We've talked about it before. If you want to go back and listen to our past episodes, we got into a little bit more detail. You can do that as well.
Well, and I Sent You Nicole and Falcian were 2 incredible soundtracks. So you're going to hear some really good music anyway.
Yeah, but let's move back into this soundtrack. What do we have up next?
Next up, we have Stage 2, which also plays during Stage 3. And we'll be right back.
All right, that was from stages 2 and 3, composed by Kinuyo Yamashita. I'm thinking it's her again.
I'm not quite as sure.
Really? I'm still getting that vibe.
For me, I think this track felt a little different, and it gave me a little bit of like a Mega Man ending cutscene type sound, like a little less Baroque Gothic feeling. It was slower paced. Maybe that threw me off. Really like melancholy and kind of very emotional. I felt like there was a very heavy emotional feel to this song, which maybe that also was throwing me off.
I really like the vibrato in this again. I think this whole soundtrack really makes strong use of that. So that's why it's a little bit hard for me to determine which is the Murata track. But the Famicom Disk System attachment, the instruments used, again, a little bit varied from that first track that we heard. It's a little bit less trumpety sounding, a little bit more like a violin this time around.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool quality.
And I love the the kind of like percussion in the background. There's like it just kind of kept going out throughout the entire track. It was really nice. I think it kind of gave it a little bit of that Southern Latin feel that you were kind of talking about earlier to kind of keep everything together,
right?
Which was really nice. This felt like a very well put together track that could be something that this soundtrack could be something that someone outside of games could be like, wow, I actually really appreciate game music a little bit more now.
Yeah, and it doesn't have the same kind of gallopy feeling either as the first track. A lot different. And this is, between levels you play, you hear that first track and then you hear it again, 4th and 6th, and this one's kind of like in the middle of there. So it changed up the pace a little bit. It doesn't have that same kind of like pushing forward kind of feel.
Yeah, they're like heroic, like you almost feel kind of like a little defeated.
Yeah, and I think this area, you go into like this cavern area, this Temple of Doom area, and so it kind of has that feeling to it, I guess, to me.
Yeah, a little more oppressive sound.
Yeah, so let's talk about this game a little bit. Story.
Yeah,
what do you got?
There's not a ton of this story, and it may sound a little familiar as I go through it.
I only know what I see in the cutscene, so enlighten me. Because
as soon as that first cutscene came up, it gave me a Temple of Doom feel, which was very prominent. The story of this game takes place in an unnamed village where a magic red jewel called the Arumana is stolen. And when it's stolen, the entire village turns to stone. And as the hero, it's your job to hunt down the thief and save the village. Which I don't know if anyone that's sounding familiar to anyone from anything else, but
right. So in this game, you do play as Indiana Jones.
I could see how so many people would be confused by the box art, by the look of the sprites, by the story. But you don't actually play as Indiana Jones. You play as a guy named Kaito. And
Kaito Jones.
Yeah, Kaito Jones.
His Asian cousin.
Yeah, he looks very much like a young Indiana Jones. And, with that story, even feels a little too closely related.
Yeah, even the spot where the jewel is housed in the village looks exactly like the Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
In the movie. It's like spot on.
Yeah, it's like kind of like a half-broken wall that has like a little spot for the jewel to sit in. And we were kind of talking about how, maybe like Journey to Silius, this was maybe originally intended to be an Indiana Jones game, and the
last minute they had to yank it out, and they were like, we don't have the license for it.
Yeah.
Or just Indiana Jones was so popular that they're like, we got to do something like this.
Yeah, which we saw a lot of games do.
Yeah, like all the Ninja Turtle clones and all, all that kind of stuff. So makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, so the search for the thief and the Arumana jewel takes you through 6 levels. Like we said, the game itself feels very much like Temple of Doom, so a lot of the levels feel very reminiscent of things you might expect a Famicom Disk System version of Indiana Jones would be like. And you might be expecting to start the game with a whip after seeing all this stuff, but you'd actually be wrong. You start the game with throwing knives as your weapon, but you get a whole bunch of different weapons throughout the levels, like bombs, handguns, bolas, mines, spike balls, and even this crystal ball type jewel thing that kills everything on the screen.
Yeah, and we should mention that you can also switch between those weapons like at any time. Just kind of cycle through them with select or something like that.
Yeah, which is kind of nice, and you do get a lot of them really quickly, so it gives you a little bit of variety in the gameplay.
I think you get all of the weapons or sub weapons or whatever in the first level.
Yeah.
They throw them all at you right away.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and besides the weapons, there's some other cool things in this game. So other than the normal platforming movements like jumping and walking, stuff like that, you get this cool grappling hook.
Whip.
Yeah, it's very whip-like. But you use it to get to higher locations. They did make it a little bit funky, though, by not allowing you to do any other direction than like a 45-degree angle. So you can't throw it straight up and climb up or off to the side. You have to throw it at an angle, and then you can climb up to the rope to get to higher locations. But it's one of those things where it's really easy to do. It's just up and B at the same time. But it's one of those things that's very difficult to master, and they force you to get good at it really quickly.
Yeah, one reason this game takes some time to get the hang of is the lack of physics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty noticeable.
Yeah, it makes it feel really unnatural. You know what? It reminds me, like when you're using the grappling hook, in the Castlevania, for example, like when you're walking upstairs.
Yeah. My least favorite thing to do in those games.
Yeah, like when you're walking upstairs, you're locked. Your feet are like glued to the steps. You can use your whip, sure, but like you have to traverse from point A to point B or back down to point A. There's no like jumping off. So this feels like a lot like that when you're on the grappling hook. When you start climbing, you either have to go to the top or you have to like come back down.
Right.
Which sucks because, like an enemy might, a spear might shoot out at you like when you're like midway through and you can't really avoid it.
Yeah.
Or an enemy might just like randomly pop up and you don't get enough time. Your character doesn't move fast enough to avoid anything like that. So for me, that was really frustrating.
Yeah, and this game definitely doesn't give you a lot of notice when enemies are coming. There's like a lot of doors all over the levels, and enemies just pop out of it. And then there's things like fire that shoots from the ceiling where there's no indication that fire can even come out of the ceiling there.
Right.
So if you actually have to learn the game and go slow at first, and then once you get better at it, you'll know, okay, fire is going to come out of there. There's going to be guys that pop out of here. This is what the snakes are going to do.
Right.
There is a variety of enemies, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
But they all act really dumb.
Yeah, the AI is bad.
Yeah, they just walk right by you or jump right over you, and then it's like they don't even know you're there.
Yeah, they just kind of move from one platform to the next, and it's just like you just shoot them and end of story.
Yeah, but going back to the whip/grappling hook, is that it feels very much like the arcade game Rock and Rope, if you've ever played it, which is a previous Konami title. So I think that they saw that mechanic and decided, well, let's give this another shot, which I really, really wanted to love this grappling hook.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not saying it's horrible. There's some things I do like about it. It's very, very frustrating, especially when you're just learning how to use it. But then after you play it for a while, you kind of learn the quirks and like the shortcomings of it, and you have to use that to your advantage.
Yeah, but to kind of describe this game for anyone that's curious, it kind of reminds me of something like Castlevania meets Bionic Commando meets Indiana Jones. So it's very interesting, but it also, with the really poor AI and stuff like that, it reminds me of a really beautiful Atari game or something like that.
Yeah,
like where the programming's really low, but it's really beautiful looking.
Right. You know, I was streaming this game a few months ago. I hadn't played the game in like probably since high school through an emulator. And so I was streaming it, and I got up to this one section, and this is how frustrating the game can be.
Yeah, I got there today.
Yeah.
And it took me like 30 minutes or something like that.
Yep. And so I was at this waterfall, and you have to like grapple up to this one platform from like this floating, like levitating platform. And I was sitting there like trying to figure it out on the stream. I think you have to like quickly jump and like grapple. Dude, it was not designed well at all.
Like, and once you know what you need to do, it's still nearly impossible to do it. Like, it takes a lot to get good at it.
Yeah. So like their playtesting team, like I want to slap them in the face and be like, you guys didn't catch this. Like, this seems like an obvious flaw.
Because it's first level, not too far into it, and like you said, you're not really used to the grappling hook yet, and they force you to do something that feels nearly perfect.
Very, very challenging.
So they probably got it once, and we're like, okay, cool, that works, and then let's move on and never play the beginning of this game again.
See, and that's the problem when you get like programmers doing their own QA. I don't know how Konami was doing their testing though. But anyways, let's get into our next track. This is from Stage 5, composed by Kinuyo Yamashita, I think.
All right, you just heard Stage 5, composed by Kinuyo Yamashita, which I feel this one is a Yamashita track.
Really?
Yeah.
I kind of feel like it's Kouji Murata.
Oh. I got a little bit more of that driving beat to this. It felt a little slowed down, a little less intense, which I liked, but I still felt like this one felt more like the early tracks that we've played than the previous track.
Well, I think what you might be referring to, too, is the FDS waveform. It's the same exact waveform, that trumpet sound from the first track. So maybe there's some comparison. That kind of makes me wonder, too, like, is this Yamashita? Because I was seriously kind of considering Murata for this track. Just has a different feel. The vibratos feel a little bit different than what we've seen earlier. Now, we could be wrong. I mean, it could be any of these tracks, right? But I think it's still kind of left to be determined. We got some more tracks to play, so maybe we'll make our final call at the end.
Yeah, but I mean, this track was great. It had great supporting bass and percussion sounds to allow the really high chimey notes to stand out, which feels very Konami, and that's something that, I mean, Konami's known for really great music, so no matter who did the composition, this is still a really great track.
Oh, totally. And I really like the back and forth. The da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You know, it has this like kind of call and response to the instruments. It's not too fast, so it does have a little bit more of a lax pace.
Right.
You're still moving forward, but it's not like rushed feeling.
Yeah, that's kind of how I had it written down. Was like it was more of a driving beat, but like softly driving.
Yeah.
Like
driving in the parking lot.
Yeah, yeah, over speed bumps and stuff like that. But that call and response that you were mentioning, that really reminded me of that first track that we played.
Okay.
And that also reminds me a lot of, you know, Castlevania. A lot of their tracks feel like they kind of have that kind of call and answer, or like, let me play a series of notes and then another instrument will do the same series of notes. So,
right.
But I mean, like you said, we could be totally way off base, and any of these tracks could be anyone. So
yeah, you know, I did ask her, and she didn't give me a response back this morning, so I was like, oh, okay,
yeah.
So maybe we just aren't gonna know.
We'll find out at some point.
Yeah, eventually we'll have her on too.
Yeah.
I was, just hoping she would be on for this episode, but I think she's busy or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe we'll have her on for one of those bigger episodes. Bigger games that she's done.
Yeah.
And we'll see. I mean, there are so many epic
we got
games.
We got a lot to choose from.
Yeah.
The graphics in this game, I don't know. It's it's an early Konami title, so you can't expect like what we saw later. On the NES, like in the 90s. Like Mitsume ga Toru, for example, had some really pretty.
Oh yeah, some
graphics
gorgeous
and
effects.
Sprites. This has a very early like Castlevania 1 kind of feel to it without the awesome backgrounds.
Yeah, I mean, in the way that the main character is designed, he has a very Castlevania feel. There's no like facial features, but he's
thick background too, or like outline.
Right, and it's very Konami in the sense that everything's very blocky. I do think it is a good-looking game, especially when you take into account that it's early. I think it had great colors. It was very simple. I think for me, visually, the worst part about it is the level design. There's a lot of things that just don't make sense, or just feel like, hey, we just built out a real basic block level, and then they were like, you know what, let's not make it more complex looking. Let's just, skin it and be done.
The collision detection alone is just
my God, it's so bad. There's so many times where you just hit a wall,
and
like
you can
just
glitch through it.
Yeah, and you can like take a few steps, and sometimes you can move around a little bit inside the walls and then die, and sometimes you just jump and hit the wall and you just die instantly, and it's like, what is going on? So that's just horrible about this game. But I think that it's something that maybe could be used to someone's advantage if they wanted to look into this game for speedrunning or just learning how to beat the game really quickly, because there's obviously a lot of broken features to this game.
Yeah. Now, going back to the graphics though, that first boss, isn't that the most ridiculous? It's pretty bad. I think the first boss is pretty ugly.
It's like a sea monster type thing, but it's like straight up just like a neck. It looks like a giraffe, like sea monster.
Yeah, like just straight up neck.
Yeah. It's like a giant sea monster giraffe, like just sticks his head out of the water, and that's like you're on like a raft that you can control. It really doesn't make a lot of sense.
Two colors, it just doesn't have a lot of flavor to it.
Yeah.
We're kind of dismissing the game. There's a lot of shortcomings, but there are some good qualities.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we can't like just say it has all these bad things. We're just giving our honest opinions, but there are some things that make the game fun, and I really think you guys should give it a shot.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is a game that I want to spend a little more time with, and you will notice some things that feel familiar. Konami definitely reused some sprites in this game too.
Oh yeah,
so.
like those bats.
Yeah,
straight up Castlevania bats.
Yeah, they even have like the original Castlevania like color scheme to them and everything. Yep. So it feels a little out of place, but I think the game overall looks good. It plays okay, and I think that it could be fun to really get the hang of it.
One more thing I want to bring up is the little HUD. All the weapons, since like you were saying earlier, you can kind of increase the quantity that you get. It has like the number by them. So if you have like 30 knives or whatever and like 40 bombs, however many you got, you can cycle between those, and it kind of lets you know of like what you need to get through certain areas. Which
is nice to see them all there, all together, instead of having to go into some type of menu and then say, okay, I want to use a bomb here. Oh, I don't have any bombs. I just realized. It's nice to see them all together in just a nice black bar at the bottom. That's very simple. They didn't, embellish it with like a character portrait or any type of border or anything like that, which it's nice. I think the game overall is simple and clean, but it could have gone a little further.
Yeah. I want to bring up the stream that I was doing again, because this spike ball thing you can actually use to like take out wall chunks, and you have to use it later on in like level 3.
Right.
But there's no indication. Like in Zelda, when there's a place to bomb, it's kind of obvious.
Yeah.
This, it's like I threw these things everywhere, and like you have to hit like the exact pixel for it to like actually,
it's very early Metroid. Like they don't show you where to do or that you can do it. There's no like variation in the wall pixels, no color discoloration. Like which is just like you just throw bombs everywhere and figure out like, oh cool, I can do this here.
Which is fine, except that the mechanics around it are so frustrating that it adds like not knowing what to do and having like kind of poor controls makes it like I was almost rage quit status at that point. But
and being able to push through walls, I might like think that it was valid to just think I could just walk through the wall to get to that wall chicken.
Anyways, the graphics and the gameplay, we've said our thoughts, but the music's incredible. Let's get into our next track. We have 2, but we'll take a break between them. This is the boss theme, the second boss theme that plays in the game.
That was the second boss theme from Arumana no Kiseki for the Famicom Disk System.
This is a pretty nice track. I like that. Famicom Disk System attachments doing that cello. It's nice and like, I like it.
Yeah, it's
cool.
This track is interesting. It's very heavy in the beginning, and then it gets real dark, and then it gets real eerie, kind of spooky, which felt more like a level track than like a boss track. So I felt like it took a very different approach to fighting a boss.
Yeah, that woo.
Yeah.
You know what it reminded me of? Like in those, maybe like I don't know what kind of style, maybe like Dixie or something, where you have the saw blade without the serrated edge, and you're just kind of wobbling it back and forth, and it's kind of going woo.
Yeah, it gives it that real eerie kind of whiny pitch to it.
And it's what they're doing is just like this really nice, kind of bell curve sine wave, and then they're doing vibrato on it, so it kind of adds that effect. But no, I thought the track was really cool. Now maybe this is the Murata track.
I was thinking that too.
I think
that's why I didn't come in with a composer name. But,
but
this track actually gave me a little bit of like a Zelda dungeon feel, like how it's very eerie and creepy. As a kid, those dungeons always like kind of made me feel uneasy,
uncomfortable,
and this track kind of did that too with its eerie, saw sound.
Yeah, well, let's get into our last track. Again, short soundtrack.
Yeah,
we only got this one left. It's short as well. This is the ending track, composed by Kinuyo Yamashita or possibly Kouji Murata. All right, that was the ending track for Arumana no Kiseki on the Famicom Disk System. I'm like up in the air. I don't know who composed this one.
Yeah.
It's a hard one. It's too short to really tell, I think.
Yeah, and it's so different because it's very much an ending track. It's very short. It's probably the song I'm least excited about for the soundtrack, even compared to boss music. But I could see getting to this point being, it'd be like, oh, great, like a change of pace with the music. It feels great.
Yeah.
I know some games specifically, the ending track like just makes it so worth it. Like Mitsume Gotoru, like the ending track to that game was like one of my favorite tracks.
Oh yeah, but this feels like it was like okay, well, you beat the game.
Right.
Here's a track real quick, and then we're just going to dump you back to the title screen.
Yeah, we'll give you some little quick cutscene that's basically the reverse of the opening cutscene of people turning, back to people.
Yeah, they're turning back from stone. Now I don't know which is worse.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, so today we covered Arumana no Kiseki on the Famicom Disk System, composed by Kinuyo Yamashita and Kouji Murata.
An epic soundtrack, amazing soundtrack with a game that I think, we might have talked a little harshly about it, but I think it's something some people would really actually get into.
And to be fair, I enjoyed playing it. Like sometimes I like being frustrated. I like, it reminds me of games when I was a kid, like being like wanting to pull my hair out in certain, a certain level of that anyway.
Yeah.
And so I did enjoy, there was parts of it, I think once you get past a few hurdles, you learn the controls a little bit better. It becomes more of an enjoyable game.
Yeah.
So
that grappling hook could be super cool. So I might want to check it out a little more myself.
Yeah. Anyways, if you want to know more about the show, you can find us online at pixelatedaudio.com for our show notes and our track list.
And we can also be found on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch at Pixelated Audio.
Yes, and I did a stream of this not too long ago, but we've been streaming more and more, and we're going to get kind of more into that as well. So check out the Twitch stream and see if you guys want to have us play a certain game, we'll definitely give it a shot. So.
Yeah, we're always open to suggestions, and it was cool to see some of our followers pop in and say hi, and even, in the case of this game, help with figuring out how to get past a certain part.
Yeah. If you like the show, we invite you to leave us a review on iTunes. That always means a lot to us. We did start a Patreon last month, which is going really well. I'm very excited to see all the support that we're getting from you guys so far. I want to give shout outs to our latest patrons. There's Jimmy Selling, Eno Keskitalo, and Norm. And Norm is funny. His name on Patreon is Clearance Sticker.
Right.
And so I messaged him. I was like, hey, we want to give you a shout out on the show. Do you want me to call you Clearance Sticker? And he's like, oh God, no. Norm's fine. So thank you guys very much. You're directly supporting the show, and it means a lot to us to see that we have people that are passionate about bringing this kind of content out as well.
Right. It's going much better than we could have ever expected, so we're very humbled and overwhelmed by the support, so thank you guys very much.
Yeah, and if you want to become a patron, head over to our website, pixelatedaudio.com. We have a button on there that will take you right to the page. Or you can go to patreon.com/pixelatedaudio. It's there as well.
Yeah. If you're new to the show, you can check out some of our past episodes like Mitsume Gatoru, where we got to sit down with legendary Natsume composer Hiroyuki Iwatsuki, which was an amazing treat.
Mm-hmm.
There's also some fun expansion packs that we did recently, and we can't forget Outzone, where we got to sit down with Tatsuya Uemura and talk about his work on that game.
Yeah, that guy was a riot, dude.
Yeah.
So cool. Anyways, so I do want to say congratulations.
Oh.
Yeah, for you, yeah. So last episode we were talking about you doing your speed run for Tailgater, or you were just kind of getting into it.
I was kind of contemplating it.
And then you kind of got serious about it and ended up taking the world record just the other day.
Yeah, not too long ago. I lowered the world record by almost 2 minutes. I plan to try to lower it a little bit further before I move on to something else.
Nice. And I'm running Motto King Granzord.
Yeah, which anyone that's been listening to the show for a while would know that that's an episode that we did.
Well, it has incredible music.
Yeah.
And so, like, when we were playing it, I remember us talking about, I was thinking, like, man, I want to run this one day. And so now, I don't get to spend a lot of time. The game has a very high difficulty, so I, just kind of chipping away at it. But you can watch me. I'm streaming every now and then, and I'm getting pretty fast at it. It's like under 13 minutes, I think, something like that.
It's a pretty impressive run. I was just going to say, like, you started streaming it now, so if anyone that hasn't checked out the Twitch, it would be, something fun.
Yeah. Anyway, so the track taking us out, and this is kind of neat. This is a remix of that first track that we heard. This was arranged by Shimoine, and it's a track that is it's kind of like a rearrangement using Konami's VRC6 expansion chip for the Famicom, which adds 2 pulse wave channels and a sawtooth channel. Sounds totally different. It's really neat. I think it was made in Famitracker, and it's just really cool to hear it like this with VRC6. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you back in a few weeks for the next episode.